Strategy Associate. She's the Corporate Strategy Associate at REAPRA. And so she's in charge of investment sourcing and portfolio management, and she assists founders in their journey from mission and ideation to business building and operations. And she supported and mentored more than 20 early stage companies in multiple sectors across Southeast Asia. She's also a part-time lecturer for startup studies at the Thai-Nichi Institute of Technology. And today our topic is a unique approach to early stage funding and support. This is a really big deal because we know from doing an extensive study of a Thai startup ecosystem that we really lack early stage investment. We've got a lot of CVCs, which typically invest in later stage, but we don't have enough early stage. So this is truly a blessing to have someone like Saijai or Kia and her organization here in Thailand. Great thing to share with our community. So welcome, Kia.
Hi, thank you for having me today.
You're very welcome. Thank you for joining us. So yeah, before we get into the nitty gritty of what you do, just wondering if we can start a little bit about just your personal background. Like, how did you get into this journey in the first place?
Okay, sure. So as Kun Sam had just mentioned, you can just call me Kia. That's my nickname. I have been in this company named REAPRA for 2 years now. And before that, I was in management consulting before. But the background of why I'm doing what I'm currently doing at the moment is actually from when I was in the master's degree back in Japan. Yeah. So I actually trying to find like which topic is that gonna be interest me, and I want the topic that I want to research about, and I found this topic about SME development, which I learned at the time that SME contribution to GDP actually affect a lot on the country development of every country. And you can see that because like the countries such as Japan or Korea, they actually have the contribution from SME more than Thailand. Yeah, so that is the starting point for me to be interested about developing their small company rather than the big company. Yeah. And I spent 2 years in management consulting named YCP, which actually came from Japan, but I was based in Thailand. I was trying to find the angle to support like the smaller side company, but as you may can guess, actually in Thailand, there are not so big company. And I mean, like when we say SME is very small in Thailand, and they cannot really afford to pay for their consultant fee, is quite expensive. Yeah. So and when I spent like 2 years, I questioned myself about all the things that I learned when I was in the consultant, as in like is this all the framework that we think is helpful for the big corporate or the somewhat established corporate? Is it very helpful for like let's say smaller company to really create change to the society or the economy? Yeah. So that is the beginning of where I start to learn more about like what is actually their startup. I actually before I'm joining REAPRA, I actually totally have no idea what is startup. I'm seriously coming from zero. I just like okay, maybe it's some company having like the technology inside and they can like grow the company fast, something like that. That's only the part I know. Yeah. And then I think that is the starting point of me trying to find the angle to support their, let's say like their less resource company to create greater impact, something like that.
I see. Just to go back a little bit, because there are some interesting things that you told along the way, even though they're more about SMEs in the beginning. But just wondering, you said that SMEs are different. You found them to be different in Japan and Korea. Is that right? As opposed to Thailand?
I cannot remember exactly about the number in Korea, but I'm sure that in Japan their contribution of SME. I mean, if you consider the proportion, right? They're definitely like 99% of the company is SME in normal country in general. Yeah, that might be slightly different in other country, but for Thailand it's 99% SME. Yeah. So the big corporate
In
is only
Thailand,
1%.
it's 99%. That's what
Yeah,
you're saying.
if I'm not wrong, I didn't recheck the current number, but it should be more than 90.
And when you say that, do you mean like the contribution to GDP, or that's what you mean, right? Okay.
So 99% is the number, but their contribution to GDP is mean like this 99% of the whole company in Thailand, they contribute to like less than 40% or something like that of the GDP of country.
Okay. Okay. So then are you saying that Thai SMEs contribute a smaller proportion of the GDP than those?
Comparing to like Japan, something like that.
Okay. Okay. Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. All right. So clearly you had this sort of passion and interest specifically in helping SMEs. And then you said that it was interesting. You said you were doing consulting work at that time. And so in those countries, SMEs could afford to hire consultants.
Yeah. Firstly, because actually I only know it when I was like researching about this topic, and I think in general people want to know that actually the definition of SME, small and medium enterprise, is actually different from different countries. Yeah. So the company that actually the SME in, let's say, Germany or Japan is actually regarded as the big company in Thailand.
Okay. Got it. Okay, thanks. So, but then moving back to your journey going forward. So again, then how did you end up getting into this startups realm and with REAPRA?
Okay. As I told you, when I started at REAPRA, I actually very blank and very like new to this ecosystem. I have no idea what is going on. I was very naive and trying to analyze things based on like things that I learned from consulting. So and if because you have been in your startup world, you're gonna know that like if you just directly apply the consulting mindset to analyzing like entrepreneur is not gonna like 100% work. And you imagine I'm in this like early stage startup, and I mean you cannot just say that okay, this model is not gonna work because 1, 2, 3, 4, because there are more factors than that. Yeah. And even you try, even you see on everything about the business model and you think that it's actually work, but you still have the factors such as like, oh, you need to know whether the entrepreneur is actually very good to drive it. Yeah. And you even you used to be a very good consultant before. I know so many consultants who actually didn't really know how to run business.
Right. It's more, sometimes for some folks, it's more just sort of the advising from a distance, right? But they don't have to implement it or execute it.
Yeah. So. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and there is this like entrepreneurship angle and resilience and like the element about like, oh, you need to really open to adjusting and like need to really like try to learn from like tasting something like small and adjust along the way, something like that. Which actually is something that I didn't learn when I was in consulting.
So you picked this up, this sort of startup type of thinking as you joined into that ecosystem.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Something like, like, I mean, since we are in like now my company is in the side of like investing and nurturing the startup that we invest. So we, besides that we invest, we take equity, and then we have the people who, for example, like me, to take care of the portfolio company. So then I have the chance to like touch on a bit on different angle in this supporting journey. And I mean, in the past, I want to know about like, why having the structure of like how many percent the founder holding gonna affect their motivation. That's not something I can learn in consulting.
Right. And that's a very big deal for the startup world. Definitely critical factor. Yeah. So just to back up for a moment, then let's establish, just for the folks who might not already be familiar, can you describe like what is REAPRA? Like, what is it exactly? Because some people might think, oh, it's a VC or it's this or that, so.
Okay, sure. So we name ourselves REAPRA. It's actually coming from the word research and practice. Yeah. And then so everyone having difficulty reading our name. Yeah, but when I told this, like, oh, it's actually come from the word research and practice. Everyone can remember.
Yes.
Yeah, and we call ourselves venture builder and investment group. Some people will say we are the VC, something like that. Yeah, but if you look into more details about the structure, about our investment or how our company set up, we actually not the venture capital because we are not the fund. Yeah. So our CEO is actually from Japan. Currently our headquarters is in Singapore. And we invest and nurture the early stage SME and startup in different countries. So up to today, we have around 70 company invested and is
70.
in like
it's 70. Okay.
70, yeah.
Okay.
And it's based in like 13 countries. Yeah. Our focus is actually in Southeast Asia and Japan. Our CEO is and our founder is actually used to run the startup in Japan before by himself at the age of 25.
Wow.
Yeah, and he made the exit very fast, like within 6 years, something like that. Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah, and then he found this REAPRA company, and actually using his money to invest and starting this support journey to like startup. Yeah.
Okay, so the term I think that you used a few moments ago was that you're a venture builder and an investment group. Is that correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay, and then for the benefit of folks out there who might not be familiar with venture builder as opposed to venture capitalist, et cetera, can you elaborate on that? Like what is the venture builder part of that mean?
Sure. Okay. So even the people who are in the field, they're gonna be confused also when I say venture builder.
It's okay. That's normal in the startup world. Every definition, including startup itself, is not consistent.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So like when we say venture builder, you can think of the word like we are like help nurturing the early stage, something like that. Yeah. So to give the listener more of the background, we do have other type of the venture builder in Thailand this day. But it's pretty different because it's in the model that they're having like the back support, having the tech team or having the people who supporting. Let's say like they have the resource in the middle and many companies to use the same resource, something like that. Yeah.
Right.
In order. And many of that are actually incorporated or even outside. Yeah.
That's right.
So that is the venture builder that's happening in Thailand at the moment.
Okay.
We actually used to do that model, and we changed to current model where we are more hands-off. Hands-off in terms of we are not like on the ground and like actually doing work for our portfolio company, but we actually coaching and focusing on the transferring the knowledge more. Yeah. And our support when we said venture builder is actually very unique because we very focus on the founder. We focus on the nurturing and coaching the founder to be a better entrepreneur. Yeah. So uniquely, I mean like the portfolio company that we're taking care of, they're gonna have like the person who we call relationship manager to taking care of them. So this person definitely gonna be your third opinion. Gonna like talk to you and actually we are very active in term of communications and how we talk like every week, every 2 weeks, something like that. Yeah. And besides then the business side or trying to like giving like advice or support type of support, we actually trying to nurture the entrepreneur to widen their perspective because a lot of time when the entrepreneur trying to make the decision, when the founder trying to make different decision, it's based a lot on their own ego and bias.
On their ego and bias.
Yeah. And
so you're trying to kind of manage that or coach them to be different from that, to redo it.
So we trying to help them to understand themselves more also and trying to have the better learning cycle and better reflection. Yeah. Yeah, and this actually reflects to our way of screening and investing in the portfolio company. We are actually invest from early stage. When I said early, it's like even you just have the idea, you haven't have started anything, just haven't have any traction, we can talk to you. Yeah. And from idea state to RRC state that's our main focus in investing. And because we invest very early because we want to help entrepreneurs since very beginning in like trying to help them find a field that actually truly met their motivation and their identity, anything. And then trying to help them develop from there. Yeah.
Okay, so many interesting things here. I'm going to come back to dig into that, but just to make sure to set the stage a little bit more. So you just described venture builder, and it was really helpful because you described the way venture builder tends to be in Thailand, for example. That's one thing, and then you explained that REAPRA did do that in the beginning, but then sort of pivoted to this other way. And what I heard you describe seems to be, I kind of think of that term we usually use for design thinking that's like human centric. Maybe I'm not using it in quite the same way, but you're really focused on the founder, on coaching them, and at an extremely, for lack of a better word, human level. It's different from like I would normally imagine a venture builder, the other kind, the traditional, let's say the other kind. It's more like a management relationship, like an organization is hiring a founder to come in, and then it's a management kind of thing. But here you're really trying to kind of mold the person at a deeper level. It sounds like. Would that be accurate?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah. So we don't do that about like we having idea and throwing this idea and hiring founder to like make this happen. We don't do that. We actually investing in founder and not the idea.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
So what we care is the founder and the field.
The founder and the what?
And the field that they want to start the business.
The field. Okay. And so literally then, does that mean if you don't hire them, does that mean you're not paying a salary in that case, and instead you're doing something else?
Yeah, so I think that's why I think like if some people regard us as like, what to say, it's very mixed. Some people will say like you are like we see some people who running accelerator, they're gonna say like you are VD, something like that. so I think we give very flexibility, very a lot of freedom to our founder. So it's like the process is almost like you go to raising the funding with other investor, right? So you still the owner of the business because we hold around 20%. The maximum maybe 40%. Yeah, but we normally not. This day we don't hold more than that. We want the majority to be with the founder.
This is a key point, and this is another reason why we chose to give this title of our fireside chat that a unique model, because interesting, right? So the traditional or typical venture builder that we're used to seeing, again, they're on the one hand they're literally hiring people to come in and be founders, and then on top of that, in terms of equity, they usually receive a much smaller amount than they would in a regular startup. In other words, we use the word like dilution. It's like the founder's already been heavily diluted immediately upon entering the venture builder, because the majority of the equity is held by the venture builder, right? And that's a model that has its place where it can work, but it also has challenges because immediately other investors that if, for example, one of those startups that came out of a venture builder tried to raise funds from a VC, most VCs can't invest in them because the founder has already been diluted too much. And this exactly goes to your point that you said earlier about one of the lessons you learned, right, when you entered this, which is the importance of equity in this whole journey.
Yeah.
So very interesting. So with REAPRA, you're deliberately not taking a huge amount of equity. So you haven't cut the founder off from being able to raise again in that sense.
Yeah. So we actually look for the perspective that it's not only about whether they're gonna raise it again or not, right?
Okay.
It's as I mentioned in the beginning, if let's say if you you are the founder and you have like 20% of the company, and maybe in the future if you even raise again and you become so diluted, maybe eventually you have only like 5% of the company, do you still have the same motivation to drive the company to be bigger version or like to become the market leader in the industry? I think it's highly doubt, and I think all the investors having this issue.
Okay, so this is a very subtle and nuanced thing. It's like, yes, on the one hand, you're not diluting the founder a lot. So in some cases, someone might imagine they could still go and raise some more, but at the same time, that's not actually what you're trying to incentivize. You're actually trying to get them to have a more sustainable business, in the sense that it's going to be something they'll continue working on. And you want them to have a lot of skin in the game and to keep the motivation, not so that they can raise, but so that they can keep committed to it, right?
Yeah. Because you imagine, like, at the end of the day, we still want you to think that it's your business. And we just become part of you, and we want to like help you thinking and grow together in the same boat with you. So if you don't have that sense of this is my business, and you asking us like, oh, can I raise the salary because I'm having XYZ, that is like, let me think about that.
Got it. And then does that impact your expectations on exit though, regarding exit?
Okay, that's a good point to mention, because we also have very different approach here. I wouldn't say that like all the company or the startup would like our approach. It might not fit some kind of their startup, I would say. But and as we all know, we actually have so different way of doing business and different way of running startup. We actually have our philosophy actually coming from our founder, the CEO of our founder of REAPRA, because when he was running his own business as a startup, very big startup in Japan, he only raised one round and exit after that. Exit when I said exit is when he IPO.
Wow.
So
wow.
And then he actually have a lot of revenue stream when he IPO the business, and actually his business got profitability within 6 months.
Oh, excellent.
So this is the background of our support, because our founder actually did that. That's why we looking to help the entrepreneur to go through this. So what we are focusing is actually we a bit different from other investors, since firstly we are not the fund. We don't need to exit within 5 years. It's our own money. And so it's like we kind of like be like the angel who can hold money longer. And then secondly, we actually focus a lot on cost efficiency and cash flow positive driven mindset. The background is, as I told you, about our founder, and because we believe in like trying to create cash flow to use that cash flow to taste other things. So we are highly doubt, or maybe it's not exactly matched with us, if the business is aiming to just like scale up very quickly without having like, let's say, like the product market fit in the market, and just hoping that, or just acquiring the user gonna solve the problem in the long run, something like that. We are totally opposite then.
Got it. So again, I mean, that's definitely unique, different from the typical sort of startup VC kind of outlet. Very interesting. And then again, back more on the basics. So for a founder to be advised and coached by you, does that mean then so they need to receive investment, right? It's not like they just come in and get coaching. Like you have to sort of choose the ones that you're going to engage, and then you'll invest, and then also venture build them, so to speak, right?
So it's like that. I think our because we still call ourselves investment group. So we do give them like the investment in exchange of the equity of their company. And then along the process, actually our process is like because let's say, okay, if it's slightly different between the investment in idea state and seed state.
Okay.
Yeah. So for the idea state, when I said idea state, it means those who haven't have anything yet until who have been running business for quite some time, still relatively small, or they think maybe they don't have like the exact, they don't know yet whether like which direction they want to grow or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah. So we regard that in as their like early idea stage.
Okay.
Yeah. For those people, we actually evaluate less on business model.
Okay.
We only focus on the field and the founder, and we have the interview process where we actually asking about life story of the founder. Yeah. For example, like, oh, can you tell me, like, when you were young, what motivated you, or what did you learn since young until now, or how did you change, or what was the failure that you faced, what did you learn, something like that. Yeah.
And what are you looking for in that process?
Yeah. Okay. For example, we're looking for the people. We're trying to connect also their motivation, like their true motivation, or we call intrinsic motivation of that person to the field that he is playing. Yeah. So if we don't really see the connection, that's also a bit of the doubt for us, whether is it really this field that he should play or something like that, or sometimes even because sometimes they coming in when they haven't started anything, right? Okay. There are a couple cases that I know that after they talk to us, they realize that, okay, maybe in the beginning I thought I care a lot about education, but actually it wasn't. Yeah. After they talk to us, they realize that, oh, because I talked to you and try to reflect again what actually matter and what I actually want to like make change in the society, then that person actually went back and starting something with the agriculture, something like that.
Wow. So you in a way you're also like a counselor or something too, right?
Yeah.
Career counselor in a way. And so sometimes they don't even know, until they
exactly. Because I mean, I think it's also hard for people to like start thinking from this angle. Yeah. True. I mean, we are not normally got trained to do that before. Yeah. But I found I found that some of the questions are very good for, let's say, our own like learning to like self-development, something like that.
Sounds like it. Okay, so it's quite deep. And again, the emphasis is so much on the person, on their life journey, their motivation.
Yeah.
Much more so than, usually it's going to be a lot more. I mean, it's not that, I mean, investors do care about all that in general, but it sounds like your emphasis might be more than that. And again, then, so you've kind of described two categories. So the very early idea stage and then this other one. Real quick before I forget is, what about check size then? So if you were to when you do investments, roughly what kind of check sizes are you talking about?
Yeah. So for let's say the idea stage, to those who have been running for quite some time, maybe let's say like within a year or not so long and relatively still small, we normally invest around 100,000 SGD. So it's Singapore dollar, so it's around 2.2 million Thai baht. Yeah. Okay. And we hold around 20%. But this is just roughly number. It's not exactly the same for every company. Some company have like more transaction, they say like already having revenue and already profitability, whether even they are still small, that might affect like let's say the percent or the ticket. Yeah. But you can think that roughly is around this 100,000 SGD for 20%. Yeah. And we're using this the same for Southeast Asia.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's for the idea stage one, or
yes.
Okay, and how about for the other one? What do you call the other category?
The author category, I call it seed state. Yeah.
Seed stage. Okay.
Yeah. So I think this seed state may not be so different from author company seed state, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah. But because we quite care about like the path to profitability. Rather than just only the revenue and traction. Yeah. So So for those company indices that already formed the company for quite some time, already grow the revenue to some amount that already have some direction of the company. We normally invest in the range around 300,000 SGD, so 3 times from their idea stage. Yeah. And we trying to have the same percentage, around 20%, or at least having the path to 20%.
Got it. Okay. And then how about sort of like an investment thesis or themes? So in other words, what types of startups, verticals do you invest in?
Okay. So it's actually they're industry agnostic. So we invest in, we don't have the specific industry, but we do have some industry that we rarely invest in. Not that we don't invest at all, but it's a bit hard for us to invest. For example, like the B2C e-commerce, it might be a bit challenging because you might need a lot of funding to do that. Yes. And it might be totally opposite end of like the cost efficiency approach.
Unit economics or
yeah. And maybe other company that a bit like, they say, if you coming to us and you said like, oh, we are the blockchain, cryptocurrency, and don't really have other use case, I mean, if you come with like other industry standpoint, having different use case, and you said, oh, you're having this AI to support this, is okay. But if you said like, I'm the AI company, maybe it's a bit hard.
Right. So you want to make sure there's utility in some industry. It's not just a buzzword. Yeah. Okay. And how about, so what you described is basically quite inclusive, quite open, with some exceptions. And then how about if we look at it the other way? What are some examples of the types of industries or types of companies you invested in? And then maybe even also some specific examples too.
Okay. For Thailand, we did invest in the accounting company for the seed investment. Yeah. And then in other country, actually is a lot of different things. Like we do have some sustainability related business in Vietnam, education in Vietnam, HR related, HR AI related business in Singapore. In other than that, we did invest in some of the fintech related before, but it's not all kind of fintech that we are interested in. Yeah.
Okay. So do they need to be tech companies?
No need. We also invest in SME.
Okay. So a non-tech SME is okay. Okay.
Yeah,
that's quite different too, right? Most VCs are not playing in that space.
Yeah, but difficulty with the if you say you are SME, right? The difficulty is that, okay, I think if your margin is not so good, it's a bit challenging for us also. Yeah. And then with I would say that even our investment is a bit, this is from my perspective though. Even our investment is a bit quite in not very like burning cash approach. But we do take startup methodology such as like, oh, try something small and test first and learn, and something like that. We care about that a lot. And it's maybe some SME, they don't used to this and they don't have this methodology or having this mindset in mind. And that is something that we actually trying to test or trying to understand when we interview the founder also, whether they have this willingness to learn, willingness to like open to change the business model, because you are the early stage. You might need to change like at least 3 times.
Got it.
Yeah.
That's neat. It's like this intersection between SME and startup type of realm. And then, okay, so SME is possible, but preferably, margins need to be more sort of sustainable or realistic.
Yeah.
And then how about social enterprise then?
Yeah, we do interested in that also. Yeah. So maybe listener maybe already can get some of their background that our company doesn't care much about like exit in the short term. Actually, we not encourage the portfolio company to keep raising the round also. Yeah. So, and actually, that's why we also interested in the social enterprise related, as long as you having like, I mean, okay, we are the investor who care about the long term business. So actually, one of the very unique, I would say unique question is like, do you imagine this business to be like 100 years business or something like that? Yeah. So we do care about like making you become the market leader, industry leader in your field. So we do want you to become big. Yeah, as it's the same as our founder who did make the business become very big player in Japan. Yeah. It's not that we want you to become always small. Yeah, we want you to eventually become big. And we do care about profit, but not the short-term profit, but it's more about like the longer-term profit and sustainable way.
Okay, so this brings up a really, really important point. It's such a delicate thing, or yeah. So sometimes when we're throwing around these terms, right, like startup, SME, even social enterprise, a lot of what's underneath of this is because most traditional VCs, financial VCs, they are in this situation where they're managing funds and they have a limited amount of time, right? And so usually it's like roughly 10 years, for example, 7 to 10 years or so. And in that time, they're going to invest, and some of the startups are going to exit, and they have to exit at a large enough size to make this whole thing worth it in terms of the return that the VC will get. Now, yours is already quite interesting because, as you said, you're not a VC fund, so you don't have a limited time. You have the patience, your patient capital in a sense, right? So a company doesn't have to grow to some amount in 5 years or 10 years necessarily. They could take more time if needed. And that's why the way you just put it, that reminds me of that, right? The 100 years thing. Now, so we've cleared one thing, which is time. Your time is more flexible. But the other thing is size. You know, that's a very big deal for VCs because usually they're looking for companies that could ideally reach like on the order of 100 million US dollars per year revenue. And again, typically in 5 to 10 years. If not, they can't even really consider it. So in your case, you already said that the time is flexible, but what about size then? Do you have like a minimum rough size requirement that you want the company to get to a X amount of dollars for it to be viable for your investment?
I think in the long term we do. Yeah, but we not normally like mention that specifically to our investee this day. Yeah. Yeah, but we do want them to like, let's say actually in the past we even have like their discussion with them that we actually want them to, let's say, like IPO their business or something like that. Yeah.
Okay. And sorry, I mean, the reason I belabor this is because we have this wonderful news that you and REAPRA are open and interested in social enterprises too. And even there, that's a very kind of loaded word because there are social enterprises of many kinds, and there are some that are even VC fundable, and there are also tech startups that there can be, right, in some cases.
Yeah.
But the majority are not. Most are what a VC will call an SME, which means that they definitely will not get to like $100 million per year in 5 years, right? Yeah. So I'm asking all this because let's say if I'm out there, I'm someone in the audience and I'm in a social enterprise, just trying to see like, because they're not always super scalable. They're not they're not hyper scalable in many cases. Two, they don't have huge TAMs and SAMs or big market sizes. So is there something to help an SE, a social enterprise out there, or even an SME, roughly get a feel for whether they might be appropriate or whether REAPRA might be appropriate for them?
I think initially you can think about like whether the company can become like in the future, like let's say $10 million business or something like that. Yeah.
Okay.
Or even like can be some company that can let's say IPO the business in the future. Yeah.
Okay, that's good. Okay,
yeah.
Thank you.
But to give you more background, when we say that when we also deal with the social enterprise, right? Even though you focusing at some field in the beginning, when we discussing with you about like, oh, what actually like your intrinsic motivation to this field or something like that, right? Maybe we can help you like open up more opportunity. And it's, I mean, when we said field, it's not exactly like the state education field. We not really mean that. We mean something like the field that you create by your own and is actually unique to you. So you can use the current business as the entry point to something bigger.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, but I think that's what you mentioned is a good point. If you think that you want to just stay small, maybe it's a bit hard for us also. Yeah.
Right. If it's
but
too
if you
small,
think
right?
that something that you do is very valuable to, like, let's say your society, your business have the value in itself, and you're highly motivated and related to this field, and you want to make it become more impactful, something like that, and bigger in the future. I think it's okay to be small at the moment. And even you don't know like how exactly you're gonna grow faster or grow like bigger in the future. I think we can help you figure out that.
Okay. And then how about the other end of the spectrum, which is like, let's say, for example, deep tech, right? Because deep tech startups, sometimes it's not that they want to raise funds just to raise funds. It's like they have the value of what we call the value of death. In order to get to product market fit and even FDA approval or whatever, it just takes a lot of money. So how about that? Is that in the realm that would REAPRA do you consider those kinds of startups too? Or?
Yeah, I personally think that our investment in idea state might not enough for some of the deep tech, right? And then because we are open for other investor, but we always prefer to be the lead investor in any round. Yeah. So I think eventually, if they think that like our methodology is not so fit, maybe it's also a bit hard for them to pursue further also. Yeah. One of the things is that, like, let's say like if you are already idea, right? But you have, let's say if we giving you this amount of funding, we might ask you about like, oh, what are things that you want to test? And if you are a deep tech company and you only have one thing that you want to test, it might be a bit tricky for us also.
If you're a deep tech company, but you only have what you said?
One thing that you want to test, and you actually like cannot test other things or something like that.
And when you say like one thing to test, you mean, for example, like there are deep tech companies where they're working on some lab scale validation and they're trying to achieve a certain scientific breakthrough or something like that. Is that what you mean? Like where it's very narrowly?
Yeah. Because I mean, I think like our ticket size might match with some kind of business and like make for some kind of business. I think we can check whether like the field is like very promising in the long run that we want to try to discuss with the founder. But let's say if we said like we invest for like 100 SGD for idea state, right? And for normal case, we're gonna ask the founder like, okay, this if you get 100,000 SGD, what are things that you want to test and how?
And one of the things there being that it's what things with an S plural, right? You want to see multiple things that they're
exactly. So if you are a deep tech and you only have one thing, and it's just like, okay, if is that gonna be enough or something like that? Yeah.
Right. It's like it's a big bet. It's all or nothing on one thing. But here you're looking for businesses that are a little bit more. There's a little bit more flexibility. They can pivot this way or that way, something like that.
Exactly.
Okay. Very clear. Thank you. We have some questions. Let's take. I'm going to take a look here. First one is how can you reach REAPRA? This person says that they're on an idea stage and plan to start and implement a small scale in the next few months.
Yeah. You can check our website. It's the reapra.com or reapra.sg. It's the same website. Yeah. And then if you go to the program, it's called W80. So initially we want to invest in idea stage for 80 company. We haven't reached that yet. So meaning you still have chance.
Okay, great. And then the next question is, can you dig deeper into the reason why there is an emphasis on profitability. In order to scale, isn't there a need to be patient for profitability?
Okay. So because we look for, when actually our website will have the wording the sustainable business. Yeah. And when we said sustainable business, it's actually not that we really just invest only like the business with their sustainability, but it's actually their sustainability in the business model that we care about. Yeah.
Okay.
So so the background is that if you don't make any profit and you don't have the cash flow, how are you gonna like keep growing the business by using your own cash flow to start with author testing in your within your business? Yeah, that's what we thought. Yeah. And then so there are some notes here also that maybe if you have small profit now, or slightly just like, how to say, if even you have the small profit now, but you are trying for something that you think is going to be more profit in the future, and it's a long term game, we are okay with that.
Okay, you are okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay. So just to check, because I think I can empathize with what the our audience member was asking there. So let me see if I can help out a little bit more. And I also think I can I understand where you're coming from too. So let me double check here. In the startup world, there are certain business models and strategies where actually, let me restart that. There's profitability in the really simple sense, which is literally this month, this year, do you have net profit or not? That's one definition, right? Or one way to look at it. But another way that's very relevant especially for startups and the way some of them operate is you might not have net profitability at that moment, but your unit economics, which is basically an indication of your path to profitability, that may or may not be in place. And there are many startups out there who raise a lot of money, and what we call the unit economics, which is, again, it's kind of like the core engine. If you work out the math, it doesn't matter. Like maybe you're losing money right now, but that's not the point. The point is that if this engine you keep adding fuel to it, if it doesn't have a profitability built in, then you will not become profitable ever, sometimes ever, and sometimes for a very, 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 very long time, right? I'm thinking that maybe what you're describing is more about that
Yeah.
You're not saying that you have to be profitable today, but that you have to have this sort of positive unit economics and path to profitability. Would that be correct? Okay.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, okay, let me help. Thank you very much. That is very good help.
No, you're welcome.
Yeah, because I mean, like, let me give their audience a bit of more background. Maybe some people will think that, in the startup world, if you don't raise and trying to acquire the user in the market as much as possible, you cannot fight with other player. I think is true for some business.
Right.
Not all the business.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Because and you imagine like some of their business that doing like that, they only profit in like after they have been running for 9 years. Yeah, I think maybe 9 years already fast maybe.
Yep.
Yeah, for those people who just like keep raising the funding and then using that money to acquire user, and then they're trying to aim with like, the more I acquire user, the more they attract to our application or something like that, and they cannot go. But yeah, when exactly you're gonna make the profit? Yeah. And you cannot stop raising.
Right. Some of those cases where it sort of is justified, or that people justify it, is like a very much winner takes all market, and it's like a race, But many businesses are not like that. You don't have to be like that.
Exactly. Yeah. So there are some business that like that, and there are most of the business are not like that.
Okay, and you guys like the ones that don't have to be like that, basically.
Yes, exactly.
Got it. Great. So hopefully that helps the person who asked that question. Next one. Great. We are a social enterprise, SED company, sedcompany.org, by the way. They're working with women, in a rural area by supporting small loans through women through the women group. Does REAPRA would REAPRA be interested in investing in a microfinancial sector? Thanks in advance for your answer.
Okay. I think I need to talk more in details. If you don't mind, please send more detail to my email also. It's kia@reapra.sg. KIA. Thank you.
Let's you mind if I type that? I'll put that in the, let's see. Can we put it in the chat? I think
we do
everyone. Okay, sorry, real quick. KIA
at
REAPRA
.sg.
SG.
Yeah, Singapore.
SG is in Singapore. Okay.
Yes.
All right. I'm sending it out to our audience members in Zoom here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, we allow our author VC to invest in our portfolio company. Yeah. Yeah, but you need to understand that like many times, it's not that we like totally prohibit, but we are not encouraging to keep raising the round. But there are some business that, okay, maybe I already got everything. I have this product market fit. The company, people like our product so much and it have so much potential. Yeah. And all the things looking good, and with the more capital they can grow more, something like that. I don't think we actually having like huge problem with that part.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So to that social enterprise company who asked the question, hopefully you got the email and reach out so that you can talk more to Kia about that. And then the next question is Mr. Hiromasa. Sorry. Mr.
I think I already answered this one.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's the one that you were just saying. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm okay. I'm catching up with you now. Okay. Next one from Mr. Naaman. Hi, I have a tech startup with few customers and would like to know how can REAPRA support us?
What is the question again?
He's basically asking how you might support him, and he is a tech startup that has few customers. I think that's one of the points, right? He's still, so maybe it's what you're calling idea stage. It's still relatively early. So in what ways could you help them?
Okay. Okay. So I think many times, let's say if even sometimes you are not always having the co-founder, and even you have the co-founder, you still want to hear like the third opinion or something like that. Yeah. And then so that part we actually very like how to say very very active in following up with our portfolio company. So we're trying to fill in those ability that you don't have. Yeah, let's say like you also may want to grow yourself as an entrepreneur, as a person. You may want to also widen your perspective of how should I manage people in my team, or what are the strategies that I should use with this business or something like that, or should I try this, should I try that, or even like you having like marketing problem and you would like to check with us, something like that. We do have people in-house that have a bit of this knowledge that can be helping in transferring knowledge too. We're not focusing on doing those part for you, but we're focusing more on like trying to make you able to do those work in your team.
Okay. You can support them by enabling them and kind of maximizing or increasing their capability.
Yeah. But I would say that the most important part is still about like trying to help grooming the entrepreneur themselves. Yeah. So this might match with your interest or might not match with your interest. I personally think that some of the founders very highly get a huge benefit from this because you're not always having people asking you like why you make the decision like this.
That's right. It's good to have someone kind of challenge you and check.
Yeah. Or sometimes we just like, okay, you want to change the business to this. Let's help each other. Let's discuss together about like all the decision of the pivot, the business that you did in the past. And is there any tendency in your decision making or something like that?
That's right. I think I remember when I spoke with you before. This is very interesting. You talked about some actual cases where like a founder, because you get to observe a founder over time, you can start to spot patterns in how they make decisions. And sometimes the patterns might not be the optimal way. So you can let them know and help them be aware, right?
Yeah. And she cannot be aware of that. Just only working in the company. No one can help her like feedback all the time. Or maybe some people have people to feedback, but there are also many cases that people don't really help you feedback about like how you should improve your decision making or something like that.
Got it.
Yeah.
And then we have a question from Facebook. REAPRA sounds as if it operates similarly to the nonprofit Ashoka, investing in people more than the concept. Is that a fair observation? And if so, how is what you offer different from what Ashoka does?
I think because we care about profit, so we are different.
Okay, that's straightforward.
Yeah, we really care about the business and growing business bigger.
Okay, you do want that too. Okay, clear. And then I think there was one from, remember when you answered the question from Hiro Masa? I think he came back and said, apologies if he heard differently, but do you, oh no, I think it's the same question, right? He said, do you allow other VCs to fund your invested venture? Okay, that one, that's what you answered. And you said, yes, right? Other VCs can invest in your portfolio companies. However, I think you had some however in there.
Yeah, I said that we are not, we're always encouraging our portfolio company to keep raising the round. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that's all the questions. And I also kind of feel Kreng Chai, because we've kept you for about an hour now. Let's see. Okay, yeah. So I think we'll have to let you at least be able to go have dinner and and rest. So I want to say thank you so much. This has been extremely helpful. Again, I mean, true to the way we describe this talk, you truly are doing something unique. On the one hand, you're doing something that's really we don't have enough of in Thailand, and that's early stage investment. So that's already a huge blessing. On top of that, your model is also not the usual kind, and it has an inclusivity to it. I think it opens up a lot of opportunities for folks that normally wouldn't have this source of funding. We were just in a meeting with SE Thailand, Social Enterprise Thailand today, and it's one of the big topics we're discussing was about funding. So really pleased to hear that you are an investor that could potentially contribute in that area. So that's wonderful news. And also really refreshing approach in terms of like your focus on this very human element, really digging deep, super deep down into the psyche, the persona, the motivation of these founders, and then helping them to even identify their own thought patterns and the way they make decisions. So really fascinating. So we're quite lucky to have you in the ecosystem. Thank you so much for sharing all this with us. And we hope we get to see you again sometime.
Thank you very much for having me today. For anyone who interested to know more, you can go to check our website, reapra.com, and we have the application form right there.
Excellent. All right then. Well, thank you so much to the audience. I really appreciate your questions. Great questions. Also delighted to see that the questions represent a broader and broader set of stakeholders and a diversity in our audience. Love that there's elements of social enterprise and impact and other things in there. And so, yeah, thank you so much. I think that there is usually some kind of a follow-up short questionnaire or survey. I think it gets delivered to you through email, if I'm not mistaken. So please, if you do see that, we really appreciate it if you could share your feedback and inputs, because it helps us to try to be better and better over time. All right. Thank you, everyone, one more time. Thank you, Kun Iet and Bang, for in the background for helping coordinate and make this all happen too, so well. All right. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye-bye.